On today's episode of Unbinged, we're giving you our review and breakdown of Alien Earth Episode 3. We're going to be talking about what Morrow has planning with the Lost Boys. He asked that question, when is a machine not a machine? Also, Boy Kavalier up some evil stuff. He's got something cooking over there with the synths and Curly in specific. And then what makes Wendy so unique from the other synths? And is there some sort of connection with the xenomorph that we haven't seen yet? All that and more on an all-new episode of Unbinged starting now.
This is your official spoiler warning. If you have not watched episode 3 of Alien Earth, go watch it right now because we're about to spoil the shit out of it.
Guys, we have a really interesting concept. I think last week's most interesting character in the episodes was Morrow, right? The cyborg who's been out on this mission. We find out it's been 65 years. As all of a sudden there is the granddaughter Yutani that he is now responding to. We find out he had a family, he had a daughter. Basically, he's given up everything. And it's kind of what we talked about last week. He's really barely human anymore. And they dive into that a little bit here, where even he's asking these moral, ethical questions to the Lost Boys. But this whole mission is his life's work. It seems like he has some guilt going on. But now he is making this connection with Lightly, one of the Lost Boys there. And it seems like there is a relationship brewing. He asks that question, when is a machine not a machine? Jag, what do you think he's planning here? Because he obviously seems like he is picking maybe the weakest or easiest one to infiltrate or create a relationship with here in Lightly.
Yeah, it's crazy how easy he was able to clock everything, and I really want to dive into like how much is going on under the hood with him, because when I was watching this, and especially how it ended, I feel like with Boy Cavalier, like it's the pull meme where he's holding up Wendy, and then what's her name? What's
Curly?
the suck up one? Curly is over
Curly.
here drowning, and then you have Slightly down here that
skeleton.
literally dying, like already drowning here, and no one's really paying attention to him. And he's the weak one, and clearly there's mind hacking, and that's going to be your way in. Because when he was talking to young Yutani, he's like, I'm gonna get all my creatures back because this is my life. I'm like, all right, homie, you barely made it out with 2 kids and Kirsch, so good luck. But then when you see how he can get in such a stealth way, and realizing that these are literal children, it's going to be incredibly easy. He's just going to haunt that little homie's dreams, and get in somehow.
Freddy Krueger, that shit.
Yeah. The thing is we know that this won't be successful. Like that, it just won't happen. I'm not saying he won't get in, but I don't know if anyone's going to get out.
I honestly don't even think he's going to get to the island. I think he's going to completely do everything remotely through Lightly or slightly. Yep. And utilize him either through direct brain hacking, like you mentioned, or just by manipulating him, because clearly this is a man with decades of experience and seemingly almost no conscience anymore. So he's not above utilizing and manipulating a child or a childlike mentality to get his end goal. So especially when he pulled back, he's like, you said something so wise to me earlier. And you could see Slightly be like, what the fuck did I say? And then he hits him with the everybody needs a friend. And that's when Slightly's like, damn, I have to be his friend now. So it's a clear manipulation. And I think it ties into the theme of almost like grooming, like child predation and grooming. And we see it again with Boy Cavalier later with Curly, which we'll talk about. But Morrow is not a good guy in any means. He is there for one thing, and that's his life's work, like you mentioned, the creatures, and getting Yutani's bioweapons back, which I think is going to end poorly for everyone involved.
I mean, it's Alien Earth. It's not going to go great.
Yeah. That's what my point is. It's just like my theory is that Prodigy, the reason why we don't see that in the future is because we're about to watch that shit die right now. Like there's 6 eggs in there. The human nature to try to look directly into the egg is going to kill this entire facility.
Are we going to have
Kirsch should just look at Boy Cavalier like, are you really going to be that dumb right now? All right, get the fuck out.
I mean, it's exactly what they did. And they even expanded on it that and we're going to talk about it more, but like the egg can actually feel when there is an organism close to it. I'm sure it's probably like body heat. And
I said that last week.
Later. Yeah. Okay, so back to Morrow here, because we sort of got off track a little bit here. Sam, I know we know that Morrow is not a good guy. I don't think he's the worst guy here in this show. Um, what I'm when he asked the question, when is a machine not a machine? He's obviously clocked everything pretty fast. He's figured out that these are kids. He's asking her to Kirsch, "Are you the parent? Why do they think they have parents?" Right? Like he's figuring it out. It kind of feels like there's still like a little bit of humanity left in there because he brings up his daughter. Is there any speck of goodness left in Morrow here aside from taking a call from a weird BDSM club?
I do feel like there is a level of humanity still there, and I wonder if it's just so buried because he's put everything in his work, and he's made that very clear. Like from that phone call with Utani, he's been doing this since, he was working with her grandmother on all of this. So he's had to make so many sacrifices over the years in order to continue to achieve a goal. And it sounds like his family and his child were part of those sacrifices. So part of him probably still wants to believe that there was a real reason for that sacrifice, a greater good for it, or something towards something better. And that's the reason why he made all of those things. I feel like that's buried again with the mission, which is obviously very clear and important to him, but at the same time, there's got to be an underlying drive why. And I do feel like because he mentioned his family, he wouldn't have mentioned them if they weren't still important to him. He would have made it much more casual if he mentioned them at all. I do feel like that's going to be a part of it, of like when he finally, if he does end up going to the offices at Utani before he goes to the island, or if he doesn't go to the island at all. Love the puppet idea of him not even having to go there to mess stuff up. But whatever kind of rubber meets the road thing with Utani happens, how that relationship goes and how that meeting happens, I think is going to be very pivotal because he's done so much for this company and everything has been hinging on this mission. And depending on how that goes, he could turn very quickly against it.
Two questions I have for you guys. Do you think there's anything he can do to redeem himself at this point? And two, do you think, like Sam just mentioned, he's going to turn against Utani at some point?
I think that because he's been trying to find and hunt down all these specimens for so long, he obviously just downloaded the supercomputer from the spaceship, all the
Which
knowledge.
Was really cool, by the way.
Super cool
downloading.
Scene.
Yeah,
that was intense. But at the same time, he has all the knowledge of these creatures and how to capture them. So obviously, they just caught them, took them to the Neverland Island. He's going to know how to, if he needs to, defeat them, but how to utilize these monsters against, Prodigy as well.
good
I
point.
wonder if it's maybe not a redemption thing, but it's also probably a little bit of the corporate espionage of like, we created the problem, but look, we're also the ones solving the problem. And you didn't know that we created this. We just had a crash. This was actually Prodigy's fault. Like they did it. And look at Wayland Yutani. We're over here solving it. And that's, it's the corporate spin job that we get in PR.
That's government. I mean, and these corporations have essentially replaced government too,
Yeah. Yeah. Guys, last week we said that Morrow was the most interesting character in the story so far. Do we believe that's changed? Is that now maybe not most interesting, but the character we have the most questions about?
I think he's still as interesting, but he's not the most interesting just because everyone else has just elevated. Like there's not a single person I don't have interest in. Even the little doctor who was just like, how could you put her out there? Even that little moment, I'm like, okay, I like you. You're not a company man. Like, I want to see some more of that shit. I want to see more of like, all I could call her is Dr. Tinkerbell because I don't know of her name in here where
Dame
she
Sylvia?
actually, she actually like cares, So to me, Morrow is, to me, the alien is getting less and less interesting, and not in the fact that I don't care about it, but it is an environmental hazard and a plot device, whereas the other players on the board are the actual chess pieces moving around.
Yeah,
this
episode. Oops, sorry.
Sorry, go for it, Goff.
I was just gonna say this episode really highlighted for me how much more interested I am in some of the Lost Boy children, like Nibs having like a PTS mental breakdown. It's seemingly, and then Curly having that jealousy and like wanting to be the new favorite. That to me is more interesting this episode. So they've really, like you mentioned, Jack, they really elevated themselves character wise for me, and I'm really like, what's gonna happen next? This show is just getting me like my theory crafting brain going 1,000 miles a minute. So it's awesome. I love it.
I think it's actually been brilliant to lean away from the xenomorph and the alien, use it as a plot device. The alien is essentially a gun, right? Like
Yes.
your
Yes.
story about a gun can only be so interesting, but the stories about the people that wield that weapon or get harmed by that weapon can be way more interesting. And that's, I mean, that's kind of what Alien and all the movies and the series have always been. And so, Koff, you mentioned the Lost Boys here. I will say this, the scene with Smee and Slightly talking with Morrow was probably my favorite of the entire episode. Like, they crushed that.
That's classified.
I would do a whole series of these guys, like a buddy cop comedy of them in the future. It'd be fantastic.
Those two comparing the alien stories, be like, then the one alien did this. He's like, oh, but then a 12-foot alien did that, and they're like, oh, I missed it. I fucking love that.
I just love that.
Usually,
dude, you said a bad word.
Yeah,
you said
that
bad
breaks up
word.
the fight. Like literally, that is adolescence from like boyhood friends on here. It's just like literally, I just hit you in the face. It's like, that's a funny joke though, and then you just like move on with your life.
They definitely.
One of the things here.
Sorry, I was just gonna say.
Go.
I think that that scene. I was really worried when they introduced the concept of these children's minds in synthetic bodies. I was like, is this gonna get to the point where I'm just like rolling my eyes in the back of my head because it's too child goofiness? But I think that they walked the line really well in that scene and made it funny enough and just goofy enough to be like, yep, they're still children's minds, but it's not annoying.
Well, and they've gone a step further where the children's minds are not just there for humor and to be manipulated. We're actually getting good questions from them, where even when Morrow is asking these moral and ethical questions to them, they're asking him questions right back, like, what if I'm defending my friends, you know? And then they go into everybody needs friends. And then we have, I believe it was Nibs who was asking, like, why do we have boys' names and Wendy's the only one that gets to be Wendy? Like, we're actually getting the eyes like through a child's mind. Like, we're getting the questions that we should be asking. That's a lot of times adults just overlook. So there is that sort of connection to what Boy Kavalier was saying, which is that child's mind has the elasticity and the infinite imagination to maybe ask and do the things that an adult wouldn't do. But I'd say all that to lean into this, and Sam, I want to get your take on this, is we find out that Prodigy is able to watch and listen to everything that these hybrids are doing through their eyes. I don't have less of a question, more of just an exclamation of holy shit. Like, where are they going with this? And like, what was your reaction when you see that for the first time?
I mean, I think that I wasn't surprised because they're all technically built, so it makes sense for them to track these assets. Yeah. And even when they're going through the comms in the ear, it makes sense that they would not only have, the ability to talk to them this way, but they'd be able to see what they're seeing to give them directions going forward. And I know you guys have talked a little bit about the grooming aspect that kind of laid into this episode quite a bit. But then there's like, I'm going to kind of deviate a little bit because there was like a funny moment I thought where it's just, Curly, I think, was like, well, we don't poop. Like, we're not people. So, like, there's a certain element of these, like...
He has no need for a butthole.
No need for a butthole. So, like, not to, like, go that direction, but, like, there's a certain amount of, like... It doesn't seem like they're going to be sexual beings because... Or, like, are they just the robots and the puppets? But I don't know. Like, I don't know. I question how much of that is going to get weird because it was obvious on all the characters' faces when it's like, you can see what we see? Oh. Like... second guessing everything that they're doing because everyone's watching what they're doing, but like how much of this, because all of the scientists are watching what all of these synths are doing. And you bring up the dame. Yeah, I'm just gonna call her Tinkerbell because I thought it was, it was too funny. But like she obviously has a very deep caring for all of these kids, all of these synthetics, and I don't think that, you pointed out very clearly, Alfredo, there's a lot of people that work for this company that are not true company people. They have lots of disagreements with Guy, and I feel like there's probably going to be something that comes up that gets real Harry there, but like at the same time, I feel like there's too many people that would impede on something really bad happening to any of these synthetics. At least that maybe that's just me trying to like find a silver lining of like, no, nothing too bad can happen because there's other people watching too, not just Guy.
I want to go back, that not too far, but like a small step back here of the question: when is a machine not a machine? And I think the inherent answer here is when it has
a
emotion.
ghost.
Uh, or that too, when it has a ghost.
Mhm.
Which I know that's $1 in the Ghost in the Shell jar, Jag. We will watch it. I promise. We'll do it. I think a lot
ScarJo
of that is not.
version only.
Oh, I'm in. Uh, I think a lot of that, like that question, is obviously it's going to be like setting up a little bit more in the future about how like these are not just straight robots. These are not just straight synths. Like they still have the child's mind. They still have child emotions. They answer questions in a way that are different than a normal synth would. Like these are still hybrids, and I think a lot of it too is still a bit of Morrow trying to preserve his own humanity. Like that's why he's asking these questions. That's why he's almost upset that he's lost his family, lost his daughter. He's talking to the granddaughter of Yutani. Like it's not the same thing. Like I think there's going to be a little bit of an emotional thing there where he's going to be the guy that probably leads some sort of a hybrid Lost Boys revolution here against Prodigy, or maybe he has to be the one to put them out of their misery. Like I think it probably comes full circle where it's he let the crew die at the beginning, and then at the end of this, he's going to be the one that has to let or make all of the Prodigy Lost Boys die at the end.
What if there's a third option?
Let's hear it.
I want to go to Kirsch because, again, understanding how this trope and these stories work, Kirsch inherently, and guys, when I say I'm not trying to put a quarter in the jar, the term ghost comes from that you're no longer just AI and you become sentient. That's like the term soul, where you officially your own entity, you develop emotion and individuality, and that is a lot of the concepts like Blade Runner and Ghost in the Shell. So here,
The
I think we're
singularity.
seeing Kirsch develop a ghost because I think of the scene where he's watching Smee and slightly just be quote unquote kids, and he's literally helped raising these people, and I don't think he can relate to flesh and blood, but he finally sees people that are just like him and have the same body, and I think he is the one that I most suspect to flip the script on someone like Boy Cavalier, because he's also had these resentments where he's just like, was it worth it, your new bright and shiny thing? And to me, I think he is the real wild card to where we'll see the opposite what we've seen in the other Alien franchises, where these synthetics are just these control of apathy that oftentimes means the death of these organic people. And he starts to act a little bit more like Wendy.
Honestly, like I got super David vibes from Kirsch, like especially when he was experimenting on the egg and implanting the
And just for people
ovus
watching, listening, David from Prometheus,
from Prometheus and Covenant. Yes, thank you.
And Covenant. Yes.
Michael Fassbender's character, who seemingly created the xenomorphs in those movies. But I definitely, when he was doing his experiments and he was doing that, it just his the way he presented himself in that scene just gave me flashbacks to how David acted in Covenant and Prometheus, especially. So I wonder if we're gonna get a slight, maybe deviation from that, or another version of that where he turns against Boy Cavalier and Ovo almost takes over everything as his own like experimentation and in pursuit of this perfect specimen or perfect organism. So I wonder if we're going to see that, or if they're going to go, like you said, in a different direction. So I don't know. It's interesting. I want to see what Noah Hawley has in store for these characters, because too many directions I can think of.
I really like the direction that Jag posed, though, with Kirsch being the wild card, and that he can be the anchor point that goes against Guy and the system, as opposed to the David in the Prometheus, where he was also experimenting, but he had a different personal agenda. Like, it just seems like, I don't know, I feel like
Superiority, yeah.
superiority complex, and I don't necessarily think I see a superiority complex in Kirsch, but I do see is someone that has been walked all over and utilized and used in a lot of senses by Prodigy, by Guy specifically. And he's going to be able to leverage and use the Lost Boys in terms of like, they're not only their supercomputers and their minds, but helping him think of other ways. And I think I agree in terms of like, I do feel like he could end up being a wild card that overthrows Guy. I feel like we're all kind of leaning on like someone's gonna overthrow this Guy Prodigy. Like
Boy
someone's gonna
Cavalier,
overthrow him.
yeah.
Who's gonna be the one to do it first, or is it gonna be from different fronts? Is it going to be Morrow who's trying to get the specimens back, and then is it going to be Kirsch that's seeing what he's intending for these specimens and wanting to upset what that plan is?
Keep in mind, from a philosophical standpoint, two things can be true, because the key factor is Kirsch keeps saying you're no longer animals. So yes, he can be David and he views humanity a certain way, but he views the sense like him. So he thinks they are superior to everyone else. So like,
True.
yeah, he could straight up say, you know what, fuck these humans. Let's go. I got me and my kids now, and then we'll raise this army of fucking weird bioweapons. Just call it what it is, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
do we think it's a foregone conclusion that this absolutely needs to connect to the next Alien movie?
No.
What if, I mean, because there's also the possibility that a bunch of these characters do not die and they're setting themselves up for a season 2 and a season 3.
That is going to happen.
There's a lot.
Yeah, I meant like I think this can be 5 seasons and it can be contained, or it can connect and it can take its time, and that's what's so unique about it.
That's definitely what they've done the best job doing, is like making it and giving us so much context, but so many continued questions that even episode 3, like, I'm sorry, I'm super excited for the next episode, for just to finish the season, and I want to see more. And they've done a really good job of painting a picture of not only this one season, but options and opportunities for movies and other spin-offs and things. Noah has done an amazing job.
Yeah.
Let's talk about another character in here. Boy Cavalier, who is a confirmed evil fuck, and him using his feet for things in the future to multitask. No, but you know what? It actually feels like one of the most realistic things in this show, because I feel like that is what younger generations will start to do, just so that they can enhance their ADHD that much more and be able to do 3 and 4 things at a time, is just learn how to do stuff with their... Come on. Like, that feels like the most gen
Just
whatever thing we want to talk about in 100 years. Like, come on. Like, we are not that far from it. Like, look at... I see, like, the kids that are watching something on their phone, their iPad, playing a video game, all while, like, doing something else.
Of course I know kids. They're me.
He's me.
Yeah. If I don't have 2 screens at one time, it's what's happening right now. Yeah.
How many of those screens do you hold with your feet, Cough?
0, because I'm too old for that shit.
Yeah. Cough has a dexterity of an elephant at this point.
Oh, God.
Okay, so I bring up Boy Cavalier here because I think that so we talked about the relationship between the Lost Boys and Morrow here. I actually think that the relationship of Boy Cavalier and the Lost Boys is very interesting because of the fact that we're kind of coming across a character who very much has an arrested development. And I think in the first 2 episodes, we look at him as maybe this brilliant genius that's just like an evil corporate bastard. But now, honestly, I'm kind of just looking at him as a person that doesn't even really have a fully developed sense of self or fully developed emotional intelligence, because he makes it such a strong point, or a point of emphasis here, that prodigies are only special because it is children that are smart. And that's why he named the company Prodigy. And he was a prodigy, but now he's an adult. And there's nothing special about him anymore. And that's why I keep leaning into he's grabbing stuff with his feet. Like, he is remaining this sort of kid in the way he talks, the way he acts, his curiosity of putting his face up to the xenomorph egg, like all these things. And now his relationship that he seemingly has with Curly, he's almost thriving on this sibling rivalry that they have. And I don't even know that it's him. I know there's like the speculation of like the sexual stuff. I don't even think it's there.
I don't think it's there either.
I think
very Michael Jackson in multiple levels, where I don't... this is a child talking to a child.
I think this is very
grooming,
much a child. I think this is very much a child in Boy Cavalier that does not have friends, that does not have anyone that he can relate to, which is why he brings up the conversation thing. And I think it's less about him needing someone smart to talk to and more about him having someone to relate to. And we get that moment where he's finding out that Curly is getting really smart really fast and that his hybrids could potentially at some point get smarter than him. And he seems to be almost concerned by that.
So when I say grooming, right, I'm not talking in this instance a sexual connotation. I'm talking more manipulation. Like he wants to mold these children into playthings. He even like lays it out for her. He's like, I'm gonna give you books to read, I'm gonna give you things to listen to, things to watch, and then we'll play. And that shit's creepy as hell because he's trying to manipulate them into being what he wants them to be instead of letting them evolve naturally and grow naturally. And so I think that's why he's never going to let Curly be the favorite, because she's always going to try to give him what he wants, and there's no fun in that. Whereas Wendy is doing her own thing, she's pursuing her own thing, and he has to almost like chase her to get what he wants from her, which is that intellectual like conversation, that relation. So it's almost like he's gonna keep attempting to go after Wendy because she's not interested in playing his games, whereas the other Lost Boys may, and they're gonna be left behind because he's not interested in playing with things that just want to do what he wants to do. He wants to own them and control them completely, and that's what I talk about when I'm saying like grooming.
And that's being a child. That's wanting the thing you can't have and not being interested in the thing that is too available.
Well, like we see it in adulthood too.
Yeah,
sure. That's just emotional immaturity, right? But like, he is an adult. Like we're saying childhood, but he is an adult. Like it's all kind of meshing together.
I'm going to pretend to be Sam for just a second and think of what she would say here. And men in general, not very emotionally intelligent people. And the quicker that we learn that, the better that we are. And now we have a person, and I really leaned into what he said about being a child, and that's what it takes to be a genius or whatever, or how they go hand in hand. And I think about how many of these people who are successful and why they are successful. And children, by definition, are sociopaths. Like, it's actually kind of fascinating that I think he's right, essentially. And I think he's even leaned into that philosophy, that to point to what you said, Alfredo, where he even keeps himself within that arrested development, where he's like, I need to be this person because I do things out of the sake of imagination and just of doing things, and kind of ignoring some of the moral quandaries that we learn, and a lot of the philosophical ways that we approach life. And he just kind of abandons that to be a piece of shit. So it's fascinating. And I think he's going to raise even more synthetic pieces of shit now to be sociopaths. Because you look at Curly, that's a girl, like, man, she could murder somebody real fast. You put the wrong girl in a fucking tank, dude. It's kind of fucking dangerous.
That's the other thing here, man, is like these kids can become really dangerous really fast. We got the nice one out here decapitating a xenomorph.
Out of necessity, luckily. She had to get pushed that far.
Yeah.
Curly looks like one she'd pull the wings off a person just to see. Oh, cool.
I think Nibs is the one we should be worried about. I think Nibs, the redheaded girl, she's clearly going through some shit, and either she has one of two ways. She's either gonna implode and destroy herself, or she's gonna explode and take everybody out around her. So that's the one I'm most worried about right now, because she is clearly dealing with some crazy PTSD from both the eye squid thing trying to take her out and the transfer, the consciousness transfer. She's still struggling with not being a little girl anymore and not having the control of even picking her own new name. Like, that question of like, why do we have to get new names and why couldn't we pick our own new names, is clearly showing that she is already bucking against that system that Boy Cavalier has put around them.
Let me ask you guys this, because I think we are seeing that we're seeing different levels of comprehension and progressive intelligence from the Lost Boys. Like Wendy seems to already have fighting skills because like the way she was able to strategize going up against the xenomorph, like, you know, close the door as I'm in here, she uses that, like she does all these different things. Then there's other questionable decisions. Then we've got Curly who's out here learning French really fast. But then we kind of see other levels of it with Slightly and Nibs
It's me.
and Smee, where it's like we're not really seeing much development there. Like, why is that? Do you think it's because some of these are going out in the field? Do you think it's like it is still some of just their human brain is still kind of controlling that? Like, if you were smart before this, you're going to be even
Yeah.
inherently smarter now.
Like, why do some
Yeah.
kids want to read more books than other kids? Why do some kids want to run outside? Like, it's just the difference in personality. And so
Yeah.
I think because we haven't seen them have like a structured, like, okay, it's time to go to class now. Like, they're pretty much like on their own and given a lot of leeway and freedom to explore their new environment on their own. So some kids like Curly are going to be naturally curious and want to advance themselves because they have a goal in mind, which is being Boy Cavalier's favorite. Or you have Shmi and Slightly who are just kind of goofing around because that's what they did when they were kids still. So I think it's just a natural difference in personality is all we're seeing in that
I
Yeah,
expression.
also
and it's nature versus nurture. I'm sorry, go ahead, Sam.
no, I was just gonna say I feel like we're almost gonna say the same thing, Jack, because you said nature versus nurture, but I feel like there are moments where what part of their human past selves comes with them. Because Curly said
Mm-hmm.
all that Wendy cares about is her brother. Well, we have had the flashbacks of Wendy with her brother, with her family. We've had those little tiny micro moments where she was loved. She loved people. She had all of that very intentional, you know, interaction with other people in her life. We don't know that of every little lost boy here. So curious what Curly's relationship was like with her parents, with family. Did she even have that? Because
Yep.
all of these kids are coming from like a place of being sick. So were some of them sick and their parents weren't there
Didn't
because it was
care.
just too much for them, or were some of them left because they didn't have family? So I think that that's all going to get layered into their decision making and their choices.
And I would take it a step further where Wendy, she was the first, so they had her regimented. Like literally this is the first kid thing where it's just like, here's my first kid, I read 5 baby books and here's how we're going to do it. So she got to do the ninja training and all the other shit. And then you get the, all right, we're ready to have more kids. They bring in 5 more, then a fucking spaceship flies in the middle of your city here. So like during their crucial moments, they're like, sorry, daddy's got to work, you know? And then they're like, here, you sit here in color and well, shit works out. So they didn't even have the foundation that Wendy had. So it's true Darwinism at that point where Curly's just like, fuck yeah, hook me up to the Matrix, teach me French, you know? And then Slightly's over here drawing xenomorphs. And I love the child psychology where they made the xenomorph just so fucking huge compared to him. I hate that I, you know, uh, with a child psychologist, I think about that shit all the time.
Very last thing I want to bring up here about the Lost Boys, the kids, Boy Cavalier and Sam. I want to pose this question to you. At what point do we maybe see that everything kind of stops with them having freedom and ability to go out and do things in the nature versus nurture, where Boy Cavalier kind of says, they're doing too much. Because at the end of the day, he does have control over them. They can see and hear everything that they're doing. They can kind of shut them off. Like, is there a press in case of emergency button, a fail safe here for the Lost Boys?
I feel like I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't get some level of that restraint of the Lost Boys, even by next episode, to be honest, because it's very clear how quickly, I mean, Curly points it out, you gave us these supercomputer brains that I feel like Guy is going to realize that they're going to impede him wanting to do what he wants to do from their own reasons of logic. So they're going to continue experimenting on these aliens and they're going to continue making decisions. And, Kirsch kicked him out of the room for his safety, but are there going to be discoveries that these Lost Boys make on these specimens or even with Wendy as she continues to develop? What's clearly a connection to the xenomorphs, is he going to look at this as something he needs to stop? I feel like that's going to happen very quickly. And it is going to be like a what have I built kind of moment because they are already smarter than him. They're already asking the right questions, whereas he's continuing to just play like a child, and they're going to start to surpass him. I feel like it's going to happen very quickly.
Jag, this is your moment to shine, because we're going to move on to Kirsch and the creatures that have been procured by Prodigy here. And the petition for you to be the one that names all creatures in the Alienverse has passed, and I think we're ready.
Yeah.
Can we hear the names?
Decapitated Xenomorph, the headless Morphsman,
There. I love it. Yes.
Blood Slug, Mark Zuckerberg.
I love that one. That's fantastic.
Oh my god.
Okay, next one.
The eye squid. I'm just gonna keep the original name, Eyeball Jones.
Okay.
That
sounds like a hard-hitting detective from like a noir
Eyeball
series.
Jones. He sees everything, and he will take over your fucking life. Something big, dangling type monster thing. The big flower. I'm sorry, guys. I dug. I took the low hanging flute. Clit Barton. I'm sorry. I didn't have a lot of time.
Better than what I came up with.
And the face hugger eggs. If it's worse than mine, just keep that to yourself. Don't even tell me after the show. The face hugger eggs. I know this is another. All I can think of is Spermy the whale.
Just for the people in the comments right now, we do know that the true name of the eggs is ovomorphs. We're just having fun.
Yeah.
Fun is allowed. So we got to see all these creatures. Prodigy takes them in. They're studying them. It does seem like their obvious plan is to figure out how they can. I think that the excuse is always we're going to learn, right? They want to replicate. They want to weaponize. They want to see how they can profit off of this, what they can do in the name of science and ultimately in the name of commerce, right?
$1 trillion of R&D, baby.
Yeah, and that's exactly why, the boy Kavalier has kind of stopped doing what they were doing with the hybrid kids and it's like, wait a second, we got a xenomorph over here.
We're a week from launch. What are we doing?
Yeah, so they end up here in the lab, right? They've got all the creatures. We see them take out a baby xenomorph tadpole. It gets extracted by Kirsch. And then that was super cool. Really cool to finally see something like that on screen. That was one of those moments, I'm not going to lie, where there's plenty of moments in the show, don't get me wrong, it is a minimal complaint where it feels like a TV show. I think some of it is specifically with the xenomorph itself. That was one of those moments where I said, like, this felt like a movie moment. This felt bigger than a TV show, seeing that. And then having that little tadpole get extracted and then implanted into, if I'm not mistaken, that's Joe's lung.
Yep,
Seems
that's
like
the
it,
damaged lung that the xenomorph pierced. So they took it out. Did they replace it with a synthetic one, or just left him with one lung? So they did surgery on his lungs. They took one that was damaged, but did they replace it, or did they just leave him with one lung? I don't know.
I'm not even sure Joe's gonna make it out, to be honest. Like to me, they're just
okay
gonna
with
use. Yeah,
they may keep him as like a petri dish. They may just.
That's
keep
what
him
I'm
for
talking
parts.
about.
Yeah, they're probably going to keep experimenting with him.
Yeah.
Which when
And you're okay with that,
out,
Alfredo? Let's
that's
just
not
say that.
good.
Let's say that loud.
No, I'm okay with that for the
Here with
show,
the
not like in
Oh.
life. Not like in life. Like, yeah. I didn't really like him anyways. Let's just keep using him.
But he had it coming.
No, man. Okay, so with this, we see them. They're harvesting organs. They're implanting the xenomorphs. What's the plan here? Is it to make some sort of a synthetic xenomorph, maybe? Is it using the brain of a xenomorph, the best parts of a xenomorph, like the blood, but then with a synthetic body, something that they can actually control? Is this like more, I hate to use this term because it's Marvel-y, but like super soldiers, where they're essentially going to create their own humans and their own creatures, where Prodigy is going to try to just keep evolution going. Is that what you guys see? Because that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, I
What if
mean,
I? Sorry, Sam.
no, I was just gonna say, like, they did mention the acid for blood, and I think that in itself lends itself so well to being weaponized that I think that that starts off with it. Like, okay, well, how can we get this, and how can we get it in a way that we can control it? But
Right.
you can't control something like that, so inherently it's flawed. So I do feel like there's going to be the initial is, well, how can we weaponize, and then how can we improve on what we've already been building? So I do feel like there will be a connection of like, okay, how can we control the thing? If we can control the thing, how can we add it to the projects that we're already working on, aka these synthetic hybrids?
I was wondering if the plan may be to almost do a reversal of what they did with the kids, and instead of doing a human consciousness into a synth body, maybe doing a synth brain into a xenomorph body, and that's your super soldier. Because now you have, say, Kirsch running around in a xenomorph body. So I wonder if that may be the end goal once they study the life cycle of the xenomorph and see how it's created.
I mean, they could even just keep going the other way too. It's like keep replicating xenomorphs as many times as you can, and then start to give synths or androids or not android hybrids like Kirsch and like these other, give them like give them the acid blood, right? Like imagine Kirsch with acid blood, like then you truly instead of the blood milk. Which, by the way, just last thing on there is like I want more Kirsch, and I'm hoping that we keep getting that. Timothy Oliphant's just killing this role.
I love him.
I think that is probably going to be the most pivotal character going forward, because I do feel like we've kind of reached the end with some of these characters, or at least like we've hit their climactic peak. With Kirsch, I think we're just scratching the surface. Main character, I guess, who's meant to be the main character right now is Wendy. We have sort of this connection that Wendy has to the xenomorph of some sort. I guess the theory is going to be behind the closed door, and while we see that Wendy decapitated the xenomorph, did something happen there? Where the xenomorph now implanted something in her? Is there a connection? Like, why this connection that when something is going on with the eggs, because like we've said this before, Noah Hawley doesn't do anything by mistake. So why the connection here with the eggs, with the xenomorphs, that when there seems to be some sort of stress there, she is also having a stress herself. She's collapsed on the floor. And why take that big action scene and do it all behind a closed door? It feels like there is a question there that needs to be answered for us.
I don't think that they're hiding something from. I mean, I do feel like there's something that happened behind the closed door, but she was hearing a high frequency of clicking in the last episode too when they were looking for things, and then it just got amplified after the meeting. So I'm very curious, and again, because they're so dialed into tech and technology, and we watched her kind of go through the screens and go through the computers in that other way, is there a level of tech that's within the xenomorphs that we're not really aware of? Because yes, they're a parasite, we've covered that, but is there just something else on their level of, their anatomy, their DNA, what have you, that fits with the technology that is inside these synthetics that allows her to hear kind of where they're at, where they're feeling.
Almost like an emotional connection to them, because she can hear their waves, so to speak.
Something on their wavelength. Yeah. Like, it's not like echolocation, but like there's some sort of level of radio frequency that they're communicating in that she's able to tap into.
And I wonder if xenomorph.
Well, it's just like a CB radio. Like maybe the oldest technology is like what's working. Like there's something going on there mentally in her supercomputer brain that's allowing her to dial into what their frequency is.
I feel you. I get exactly what you're saying. And I didn't know that xenomorphs can sense fear. Is that like a whole thing? Because that's how Morrow keeps getting by. Because he's just like, well, let me just shut off my fear for a second. And he's still kind of like shitting his pants. That's the only part I'm a little confused on. And it seems to be a plot point, and I expect them to like to pay that off. Like it
would it be that like when you're scared, your blood's a little bit, you're running a little hotter. Maybe you're sweating.
You dump like adrenaline, shit like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
because they do that in Romulus, where they make the room really hot so you can't sense like where the humans are. So that's probably a little bit of it, right? Like the adrenaline.
Yeah. Well, that and like any kind of predator like has like heat sensing. Like vipers and snakes, they can sense heat of like where like a mouse has been and where they've stepped, so they can like go and find it. These are super predators. I don't mean to call them predators, but guys know what I mean. Like they're
Apex
super
predators.
they're apex predators that are able to hunt and kill for X number of reasons, and I think we're seeing all the different ways that they can utilize those tools.
Well, guys, I think we've done a good job here going through all of our different storylines. I think this show is doing a great job of making us care about multiple storylines here. It's not just our quote main characters. It's not just the alien. It's sort of everything, and they're doing a good job of giving us answers, more questions. This is what good shows do. I'm in. I feel like you guys are in as well. We're gonna be back again next week, next Wednesday again, giving you guys our reaction and review to episode 4 of Alien Earth. As always, I want to thank everybody for watching or listening all the way through. For myself, for Jag, for Sam, for Koff. We'll see you next time. Adios.